Do you have any answers to that?
In reference to the RFP for the demolition?
Right.
No.
I have not heard anything more at all. The only thing I can say is I think it was unanimous as far as this board was concerned, correct me if I'm wrong, that it was Dave Donovan who was to write up the RFP. When it first went back to Dave Donovan, he said, I really need some help from an engineer. And that's when Sean Hoffman was contacted, and he has made himself available to Dave Donovan. But as I sit here right now, there has been no change, so I don't think there's a word put down as far as this RFP. Unless you know something.
No, so that's accurate.
I don't think there's anything that's been done.
Well,
given that the situation has stalled,
no.
how do you really feel?
Say what? Now, I think what I said on Monday is I think you need to take this to the village board and ask them the same question. Rather than getting a rhetoric and back and forth, I mean, they're the ones who were assigned the lead on it.
While I appreciate what you're saying, and that certainly is true that it could be brought to the village board, there is a persistent problem, not only on this subject, but on a variety of subjects, of communication between the two boards. I'm not pointing fingers, I'm not saying what the origins of the problem are, but it always comes back to communication between the two boards. And while it's true that a citizen can raise the issue with either board, it's really a problem between the two boards. And it's my feeling, whip me for it if you will, but it's my feeling that it's between the two boards to communicate. If there's if the two boards have agreed to proceed in a direction and that action is stalled, it falls to the boards to work that out. Not for someone like myself or someone else to be
I think in this
being a
case,
pest and raising the issue.
Here's where I'm at on this, is we have George who works with a member of the village on joint recreation, a vehicle which is to deal with this issue, where they meet continuously. George brings it up, he finds out what it's all about. That's the vehicle for taking this on. I'm not going to go as an individual and write a note saying, Mayor, or Mayor of Mr. Donovan, why aren't you doing your job? Just like I don't want them writing a letter to me saying you're not doing your job. We write letters back and forth. We communicate. We do. We've communicated ad nauseum, for example, on very important issues like sewer negotiations, where we meet, we talk, we write letters. If it's worthwhile and it's something that is outside of a board or whatever, then we'll communicate. But I don't think, as an individual, now the rest of the board may take a different approach, but I've had my meetings, and
maybe we can ask George.
I have asked George.
I'm going to ask. Excuse me, I'll just finish it. I'm going to ask George again at his next meeting to get a resolution from the village liaison, Kyle. He works very closely with the situation on what they're doing on Salesian. Would you do that, George?
Yeah,
That's all.
I'll address the issue.
Moving forward again.
I'll address the issue again, but I mean at the last JRC meeting, there's a tape of it, so I assume there was a very pointed conversation back and forth, stating that I get asked this at town board meetings, and it's very frustrating on my board to be asked this, and then have to report back to the board and the public that nothing is being done when it clearly was, the village who was supposed to take the lead on this. But I'll contact Kyle again, and I'll address it again at the next JRC meeting.
It's well taken. You know what? This is a joint project between the village and the town, and Joel is absolutely right. Someone has to be proactive because we have to keep our eye on the ball and deal with the issue and not the communication.
And not the individual.
So I understand where you're coming from, and I understand where Doug and everybody else is coming from. But Dennis, you're going to play an intricate part of this Because if their attorney was supposed to prepare it, and we had made our engineer available, would you contact David Donovan
Sure.
and ask him? He may be doing it. We don't know. We only know, so if he was directed to do it and he wants help, and we provided the engineer, he may be doing this, so
Yeah.
would you mind?
Absolutely. I talked to him, Kurt, as you know.
I know you do.
So I will find out.
Yeah, and if for some reason they decide that they don't want to do it, they don't have the resources, then let us know, and then we'll move forward on whatever we have to do.
But I would like to make a comment about communication, because I don't think we're getting credit for all the communication you
I
have.
agree with you, Doug.
You have one little item here that you've asked a question on, and we said, and I gave you the answer last time, as did George, that we in fact are in a meeting, we talk to them, and so on and so on. They've done nothing that we're aware of. George brings it up to the meeting. I don't think you can beat that.
Don't misunderstand me, communication
Right.
is two-way.
Well, that's the purpose of that meeting.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I would like to share on communication. Our attorney talks to their attorney weekly. We have a negotiating board that's been in contact all the time, numerous times, a couple times a week, on issues that are important to us. Our finance budget officer deals with them all the time, as does my assistant.
This board needs to take it back to the board, that's not
Well, with
moving
all
forward.
due respect, the board's got to be aware, as the press, that depending upon how this may be reported, once again, it'll raise the level of disputes with the village, because
Yeah.
I think we're picking on them in response to the question.
Absolutely.
So I think your comments are all well taken,
Yeah.
but it's got to be observed
Yeah.
that there's not much more we can do. I know George has made efforts.
Yeah.
I'll certainly pursue it with them. But I just caution the press in terms of how it's reported. Not that they won't be accurate, but it's just that I can see the village now, they're picking on us again. Look at the stones
Yeah,
thrown.
that's not the intent. We just
Yeah.
wanted
Yeah,
a
I
resolution
understand.
to the situation.
But I remember when Mayor Weinberger was there, okay, and he and I would talk, and we even go out and have a cup of coffee. Didn't get much done many times, but that was the kind of relationship we had. Our board doesn't have that relationship with the village. I've tried, and I'm not going to go beyond that. But it has not worked out. Okay? And I think everybody knows it has not worked out. And this one doesn't elevate itself to the level of importance as some of the other issues. But we communicate daily, weekly on many issues, certainly as they're important to the operation of the village and the town. Okay, anybody else got anything? Ready? Good. Okay. Would someone like to make a motion, we go in executive session to talk about the Altry litigation? It's more than status, but kind of a recap. I think you know, Vicki. And I'd like to talk about the village sewer negotiations with the intent not to return.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.